Have you ever wondered if the way you've been touching yourself might actually be making things worse? Not just a little, but rewiring your body to shut down. Here's the uncomfortable truth rushing through masturbation after 60 can damage your nerves, numb your sensitivity, and hurt your long-term health. But no one talks about it. A 2022 study in the Journal of Men's Health revealed that nearly 7 out of 10 men over 60 report a sharp decline in sexual satisfaction, yet most never connect it to how they touch themselves. So here's the question you need to ask. What if slowing down could be the key to waking your body up again? And what if everything you've been doing since you were 20 no longer works for who you are now? Before we get into it, drop a comment below. Type 1 if you've ever felt disconnected from your body lately, or 0 if you haven't thought about it. And don't forget to subscribe. I release weekly honest, age-specific health advice just for men like you. I'm Dr. Mark Hyman, MD. I've spent over 30 years helping men navigate the changes that come with age physically, emotionally, and sexually. From Navy veterans to accountants, from teachers to truck drivers. I've worked with thousands of men who still want to feel alive, whole, and connected to their bodies. And what I've seen over and over is this: most men over 60 are stuck in a pattern that's quietly working against them. Let me tell you about Tom, one of my longtime patients. He's 67, a retired Air Force mechanic from Ohio. Still sharp, still active, still has desire. But when he came to me, he looked frustrated and embarrassed. He said, "Doc, I still want it, but it doesn't feel like anything anymore. I just do it to fall asleep." I asked him how long it usually takes. 3 minutes, he said. Maybe less. I don't even think about it. I just get it over with. That's when I knew what was happening. Tom was rushing every single time. Now, this isn't about frequency. It's not about whether you do it once a week or once a day. It's about the way you do it. When you treat self-pleasure like a task, fast, mechanical, hidden, your nervous system doesn't relax. Your blood vessels don't open. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your brain registers tension, not arousal. Over time, this trains your body to associate touch with stress, not with satisfaction. And here's the danger. You start needing more to feel less, more pressure, more stimulation, but you get less joy, less connection, and eventually nothing at all. Tom wasn't broken. He was just repeating an old pattern that no longer served him. So I gave him a challenge. Set aside 15 minutes. Not in the dark. Not in secret. Not when you're half asleep. Do it in a space that feels calm, safe, and yours. No goal, no finish line. Just breathe, touch, feel. He looked at me like I was crazy. But 2 weeks later, he came back with tears in his eyes. "Doc," he said, "I didn't just feel something. I felt me again." That's the power of slowing down. So tonight, if you reach for yourself, don't do it to check a box. Do it like you're meeting an old friend. Because your body still remembers. It just needs time. You're not rushing because you're in a hurry. You're rushing because no one ever told you there was another way. Now you know, and we're just getting started. Tom's story didn't end with slowing down. In fact, once he gave himself time and space, something unexpected happened. He started to notice pain, nothing sharp, nothing alarming, just a lingering soreness he couldn't explain. "Doc," he said during our next session, "I've been doing what you said, taking it slow, being present, but afterward, I feel kind of bruised." And that's when I knew Tom had uncovered the second most common and most damaging mistake men over 60 make: using too much pressure. This happens more often than you'd believe. When sensation drops, most men assume they need to try harder. So they grip tighter, move faster, use more force, just to feel something. But the body isn't asking for more intensity. It's begging for gentleness. Let me break it down. The penis is filled with thousands of micro blood vessels, soft muscle fibers, and nerve endings that are incredibly sensitive to touch. When you apply repeated, intense pressure, especially with a tight grip, those delicate structures begin to break down. Over time, this creates micro tears in the skin, nerve desensitization, poor blood flow, a growing dependence on a very narrow type of stimulation. There's even a term for it in patient communities: death grip syndrome. It's not an official diagnosis, but the experience is very real. Tom was heading there. He confessed, "I've been doing it the same way for decades. Always fast, always tight. Never really thought about how that might change things." He's not alone. Thousands of men fall into this pattern, not out of ignorance, but out of habit. No one ever told them that their body's needs would evolve, so we shifted gears. I asked Tom to start using a natural, water-based, fragrance-free lubricant, not for sexiness, but to reduce friction, protect the skin, and encourage a more fluid, relaxing motion. Next, I had him loosen his grip. At first, it felt strange. I couldn't even feel anything. He said, but 2 weeks later, that changed. He came back and told me, "It's not just that I feel more, it's that I feel different, more tuned in, less disconnected." That's exactly what we want. Here's the science. When you reduce physical strain, you allow the Pacinian and Meissner corpuscles, the nerve endings responsible for vibration and pressure, to resensitize. That means more feeling with less force. Tom even started to experiment with other areas of touch: his thighs, his hips, the base of his shaft, areas that had gone untouched for decades. And guess what? They woke up. Why? Because the body remembers. It just needs an invitation, not an assault. So here's what I want you to take away. If you've been gripping too hard, stop. If you think pain is just part of aging, it's not. If you feel nothing unless it's intense, that's not normal. That's a sign your body needs a reset. Start with gentleness. Let your hands speak softly. Let go of the pressure, not just physical, but mental. You're not here to conquer your body. You're here to reconnect with it. And trust me, less force will bring you more feeling. Tom proved that. And in the next part of his journey, he'll learn it wasn't just his hands causing pain. It was something deeper. While Tom was beginning to reconnect with his body through gentleness, another patient of mine was battling a far more invisible barrier. His name was Raymond, 69 years old, a retired mechanical engineer from Boise, Idaho. Stoic, logical, deeply private. He hadn't touched himself in nearly a decade. Not because of pain, not because of dysfunction, but because every time he tried, something inside him froze. It's like walking into a room I don't belong in anymore. He told me Raymond's struggle wasn't physical, it was emotional. And that brings us to the third mistake older men make: ignoring the emotional side of pleasure. You see, Raymond grew up in a strict household. Touching himself was labeled shameful, wrong. He internalized those messages, and even now, after retirement, after years of marriage, after children, he still carried that silent judgment. The result: every time his body asked for connection, his mind shut it down. And he's not alone. Many of my patients, especially men born in the 40s, 50s, and 60s, were taught that masculinity meant control, stoicism, silence. Desire was fine as long as it stayed hidden. Emotion weakness, pleasure, something you earned or kept behind closed doors. But here's what decades of clinical work and neuroscience tell us. Your emotions and your arousal are not separate. They are deeply connected neurologically, hormonally, and psychologically. When you suppress emotion, your limbic system, the part of your brain responsible for pleasure and bonding, signals stress instead of safety. You might still climax, but it feels empty, mechanical. Your nervous system remains guarded. Raymond's body wasn't broken. It was in emotional lockdown. We started slow. No pressure to perform. No expectation to feel anything. Just time, space, honesty. I asked him to sit with his body fully clothed at first, to breathe, to speak kindly to himself, to remind his heart that it was okay to want, that there was no shame in feeling. At first, nothing changed. Then one day, he came in with tears in his eyes. I tried again. I didn't finish, but I didn't feel ashamed. I felt curious. That was the turning point, because the moment you stop performing and start listening, healing begins. Raymond's story is a reminder that pleasure doesn't start in the skin. It starts in the soul. And if you've ever felt guilt, shame, or disconnection from your own desire, please hear this. You are not alone, and you are not broken. You are carrying weight that was never yours to begin with. Let it down, even if just for a moment. Tell yourself, I don't have to be perfect. I don't have to earn this. I'm allowed to feel. Because when the emotional door opens, the body follows. Raymond didn't find pleasure overnight, but he found permission. And that was more powerful than any technique I could have given him. In the next part of our story, we'll return to Ben, who, like Raymond, thought pleasure was gone forever until a radical shift brought him home. If Raymond's healing began with emotional permission, then Ben's breakthrough came through something even simpler: touch. Ben was 74, a retired math teacher from Flagstaff, Arizona, sharp mind, orderly life, a man of reason. But when it came to his body, he was lost. It's like the engine's running, he told me, but the gears won't shift. He had desire. He had function. What he didn't have was connection. And that's where we discovered the fourth truth older men need to understand: the power of slow, gentle touch. Ben had done everything by the book his whole life. Routine, discipline, precision. And that's exactly how he approached pleasure: fast, firm, predictable. But now it wasn't working, and he didn't know why. So I gave him an unusual prescription: slow down, soften your hands, and stop trying to get somewhere. He looked at me like I'd asked him to grow wings. But that's the point. At this stage of life, pleasure is not about intensity. It's about intimacy. And sometimes, the most radical thing a man can do is go gentle. Here's the biology. When you shift from force to gentleness, you move from sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight, to parasympathetic mode, rest and receive. Your vagus nerve activates, blood vessels expand, breathing deepens, and your brain receives the message. You're safe now. You can feel again. With Ben, we started small. First, he committed to using fragrance-free lubricant, not for stimulation, but for safety and flow. Then I encouraged him to explore areas he'd ignored for decades. The inner thighs, the base of the shaft, the perineum. He practiced deep belly breathing to stay grounded. No porn, no goal, no pressure. It felt weird at first. He admitted, like I was learning to play an instrument with no sheet music. But slowly, the numbness faded. In its place came warmth, tingling, tears. I wasn't just touching my body, he said. I was meeting it again. That's the heart of this practice. You're not chasing release. You're rediscovering relationship. Think of it like physical therapy for your nervous system. If you had a frozen shoulder, you wouldn't yank it back into shape. You'd move gently. Rebuild trust. That's what your body is asking for now. Ben began to notice something else. 2. After weeks of soft, slow sessions, his everyday life felt different. He was calmer, more present, more forgiving with himself and others. Why? Because how you treat your body in private affects how you show up in the world. So here's my invitation to you. Tonight, put away the timer. Don't aim to finish. Aim to feel. Let go of the past. Let go of what used to work. And meet the man you are today with softness, curiosity, and respect. Ben did. And next, we'll explore what happens when that gentleness becomes emotional presence, where real healing takes root. Ben's journey was already shifting, slowing down, softening his grip, breathing more deeply. But something still held him back. It feels better, he told me during our 3rd session, but I still feel disconnected, like I'm not really there, even when I'm doing everything right. That's when I knew we had reached the 5th and most personal turning point, staying emotionally present, from habit to healing. See, Ben had mastered the physical techniques, but presence isn't just about what you do with your hands. It's about what you do with your mind and your heart. Let me explain. Many men, especially over 60, grew up in a culture that taught them to keep pleasure and emotion in separate rooms. Sex was physical. Emotion was private. And the two never mixed. But neuroscience and decades of experience tell us something very different. Real pleasure isn't just physical. It's emotional. And your body knows the difference. When you go through the motions without emotional presence, your limbic system stays closed. Your brain doesn't release the same waves of oxytocin and dopamine. Even if you climax, it feels empty, robotic, like finishing a chore. That was Ben's exact experience. I get to the end, he said, but I don't feel anything lasting. Just a moment of relief. And then back to nothing. So we shifted focus. I asked him to turn everything off during his sessions. TV, phone, distractions. This wasn't background noise time. This was him time. Then I gave him one challenge. Talk to yourself, kindly, out loud. Tell yourself you're safe. You're worthy. You're allowed to feel. He chuckled at first. said it felt strange. But then something cracked open. A week later, he sat in my office, softer than I'd ever seen him. I said it out loud. "Doc, just once. I'm here. I deserve this." And I cried, not from pain, from recognition. Because for the first time in years, Ben didn't just touch his skin, he touched his truth. That's what emotional presence is. It's not therapy. It's not overthinking. It's simply not leaving yourself behind. Here's how you can practice it. Remove distractions. No music, no screens, no rush. Breathe deeply. Focus on the sensation of air filling your body. Name what you feel, not just physically, but emotionally: curiosity, awkwardness, grief, even joy. Welcome, whatever comes. There's no wrong feeling, only honest ones. Some men find it helps to say things aloud. Others journal afterward. The method doesn't matter. The presence does. Ben began to look forward to these moments. Not because they always led to orgasm, but because they always led to himself. He described one evening as the first time I felt whole in a long time. Not chasing, not proving, just being. And that's the real reward, because emotional presence isn't about performance, it's about belonging to yourself again. So tonight, I invite you to stop asking, "How fast can I finish?" and start asking, "How connected can I be?" Because when you show up fully mind, body, and heart, even the quietest moment can feel like home. In the next part of this journey, we'll return to Tom, who, like many men, thought pain was just a sign of age, until he finally started listening. Tom had come a long way. He'd slowed down, softened his grip, even started enjoying moments of connection again. But something still didn't sit right. "Doc," he said during a follow-up, "I've been feeling a little soreness afterward. It's not sharp, just this dull ache that hangs around. I figured it was normal, age and all." That right there. That's the 6th major mistake I see in men over 60. Not listening to your body's warning signs. Tom wasn't ignoring it out of carelessness. He did what most men do, he downplayed it. He assumed that discomfort is just part of getting older. But that belief, it can lead to real harm. Let's get something straight. Your body is always talking. The question is, are you listening? As we age, the skin becomes thinner, the blood vessels more fragile, and nerve endings more sensitive. Even minor irritation, if left unaddressed, can snowball into chronic inflammation, loss of sensitivity, prostate irritation, micro tears that never fully heal. Tom had been using the same method for 40 years, same hand, same rhythm, no lube, minimal recovery. At 30, his body bounced back. At 67, it was asking for something else, so we made a plan. First, I had him begin checking in with his body after every session. Not in a panicked way, but like a scan. What do I feel? Is anything tight, tender, or numb? Second, I had him add 1 day of rest between sessions, just like you'd rest a sore muscle. Touch isn't just about pleasure, it's about recovery, too. Third, we talked about his prostate. I asked if he'd noticed. More frequent urination, a weaker stream, pelvic pressure or discomfort during orgasm. He hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I just thought it was part of aging." And that's exactly the problem. Too many men normalize warning signs that should be investigated, not ignored. A mildly enlarged prostate is common over 60, but left unchecked, it can lead to more serious issues, urinary retention, infections, or worse. Early detection can prevent all of that. So Tom scheduled his first prostate exam in years. Turns out, he had low-grade inflammation, nothing dangerous, but something we could treat early. A few lifestyle changes, some gentle pelvic floor stretches, and a better lubrication routine. And within a month, his soreness was gone. I had no idea I was doing damage. He told me, but once I started paying attention, it's like my whole body breathed easier. That's the lesson. Pain, numbness, discomfort. These are not just annoyances. They are signals. They're your body's way of saying, please, take care of me differently. Here's what I recommend for every man over 60. Inspect your skin weekly. Look for redness, irritation, or changes in texture. Pay attention during and after stimulation. What feels off? Track your urination patterns. Subtle shifts matter. Don't wait for something to go wrong. Prevent it. This isn't about fear, it's about respect. Respect for a body that has carried you through decades. Respect for a body that still wants to serve you, but needs you to meet it where it is. Tom learned that. And in doing so, he found not just relief, but confidence. Because when you listen to your body, you reclaim something most men lose with age: trust. In the final part of our journey, we'll return to Raymond, who thought aging meant losing pleasure, until he discovered the truth. You're not broken. You're evolving. Raymond sat across from me, the same man who once told me he hadn't touched himself in 10 years. Grief had shut him down. Shame had kept him silent. But now he was lighter, softer, more open. Still, there was one final hurdle to cross. I guess I'm still waiting for it to feel like it used to, he admitted. To feel strong again. To feel like me. That moment brought us to the seventh and most powerful truth. You're not broken. You're evolving. So many men see changes in their sexual response and think it's the beginning of the end. Slower arousal, less intensity, longer recovery. They assume it's a sign of decline, but the truth is it's adaptation. Your body is not failing you. It's just asking for something new. I explained to Raymond, using words I've shared with thousands of men. The nervous system isn't shutting down. It's rewiring. The muscles aren't weak. They're recalibrating. And your desire, it hasn't disappeared. It's just hiding behind old expectations. Let's look at what the science says. Studies from the Journal of Sexual Medicine show that men over 60 can retain sexual function well into their 80s when adjustments are made in pace, technique, and mindset. Hormone levels shift. Yes, but arousal becomes more relational, more emotional, and often more satisfying when approached with presence. Raymond had been comparing every new experience to his old self. But your past isn't the benchmark, it's the foundation. This chapter isn't less valuable. It's just written in a different tone. I encouraged him to explore new rituals, ones rooted in honoring, not achieving. He started with a warm bath before touch, to relax both body and mind. A few minutes of breathing, just feeling his skin. No agenda. Reflecting. Afterward, with a short journal entry. What did I feel? What surprised me? A month later, he walked in with a quiet smile. It wasn't fireworks. he said. It was something better. It felt like peace, like home. That's when I knew he'd arrived. Not at a destination, but in himself. And that's where I want you to land too. Because here's the truth. I need you to remember. You are not the sum of your erections. You are not defined by how quickly you climax. You are not less of a man because your body moves differently than it once did. You are a man still alive in your skin, still worthy of pleasure, still evolving. Tom, Ben, and Raymond, 3 men, 3 paths, 1 message. This stage of life isn't the end. It's the invitation to reconnect more deeply than ever before. So tonight, don't reach for yourself with the pressure of performance. Reach with respect, with presence, with the understanding that your body has wisdom now, and it's ready to teach you how to listen. In our final conclusion, I'll tie together these lessons and show you why it's never too late to begin again. If you've made it this far, I want to say something from my heart, not as a doctor, but as a man who's seen thousands of others walk this road. You are not broken. You are evolving. Let's take a breath together and look back. You've met Tom, a proud man who learned to slow down, listen to his body, and discover that pleasure isn't about urgency, it's about presence. You've walked beside Ben, who stopped gripping so hard to feel something, only to find that letting go is what helped him feel everything. And you've heard the story of Raymond, whose grief kept him silent for years until he realized that self-touch could be an act of healing, not shame. 3 men, 3 journeys. But one deeper truth, aging doesn't mean your pleasure fades. It means your pleasure changes. And if you change with it, what you find might be more fulfilling than you ever imagined. We broke down the 3 biggest mistakes that steal men's connection to their bodies: rushing the experience, using too much pressure, ignoring the emotional weight. And together, we discovered 6 healing solutions. Slow your pace. Soften your touch. Open your heart. Stay emotionally present. Listen to your body's signals. And embrace this new season with grace. Every step you take in honoring your body, whether through gentle touch, quiet breath, or just allowing yourself to feel again, reconnects you not only to sensation, but to yourself. And maybe, just maybe, that's the most important intimacy of all. So here's my invitation to you. Take one thing from today and try it tonight. Leave a comment below. Let me know what resonated, what challenged you, or what you've been afraid to ask. And if this message touched you, subscribe to the channel. This is where we talk about truth, not just tips. Where aging doesn't mean silence, it means evolution. You're not alone. You're not forgotten. And you're not too late. You're still here. You still matter. And you still deserve to feel alive from your skin, all the way to your soul. Let's keep going. Together.